Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar. We're really excited to have you all. We have myself here from the Acelab team, and we have Cass and Jason here representing the MGM team. So as we let everyone trickle in, I'm going to share my screen for a moment and show you all where you can learn a little bit more about Alumicor by MGM on Acelab. All right, so here we go. Should be look at my screen. Okay, perfect. So now you're looking at Acelab's page. So whenever you're looking for a specific manufacturer, you can use the search bar to just type in any specific name. Currently, we're looking at MGM's page. So we've got some basic information here, a few highlights, as well as many of their products for you to explore and learn more about. So click into any one of these product pages if you'd like to get more information. You're also welcome to actually click into one of these and save it to your firm library for future reference. So definitely take the time to check out their page when you have the chance. I'll drop a link to this page in the webinar chat for you to reference. Besides that, we will be doing Q&A at the end of the presentation. So feel free to drop any questions in that Q&A box at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation. At the end, we'll go through those questions together. We will also do a webinar poll, so you'll see that pop up during the presentation as well. If you're interested in getting more information from their team after today's presentation, go ahead and fill that out and we will be in touch. And yep, that's about it from my end. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Cass and Jason.
Okay, so just before we get started, Jason, is my screen still being shared? Yeah.
Yes, looks great.
Okay, excellent. All right, Jay, take it away.
Okay, my name is Jason Burke, and I'm a project manager for MGM Architectural Glass and Aluminum. We work very closely with Cass and Alumicor team on all of our aluminum and architectural products. So basically, we are a manufacturing facility located in Stewiacke, Nova Scotia, and this presentation is based on a window wall product that we've been using quite a bit lately and been getting a lot of traction out there with. So first of all, MGM, we're a full-blown manufacturing company. We have a glass tempering line in-house. We do all of our own manufacturing for aluminum through our CNC processes. All of our products and window wall are all scrutinized under a good checklist. And basically the theory is whatever we can do inside the house, it can be better managed rather than doing it on the outside of the house. So basically it leads me into the window wall product line. So the window wall product line, the 950 SG by Tube Light, is a structural silicone glaze system. So that's all done in-house. Everything is routed through the machines, assembled in-house, and all the glass is installed on the framing here. We apply an SSG, structural silicone caulking, on to adhere the glass to the aluminum framing. That undergoes a good curing time here. So we go through all the processes and all the steps along the way for quality control, handling, delivery, storage. So our facility here is able to handle all the glass manufacturing, all the aluminum manufacturing. We have in-house drafts person team of 3 people. We have 3 project managers and estimators. We have a design. We do like printing, like an inkjet printing, and we have a graphic designer who does a lot of the drawing and planning for it. And we have a large installation team. So we go out to these sites and we get all that information from site, and it all comes back to the office and gets all detailed and sent through all the processes here inside of our shop. We've been in business here in this location for about 2.5 years. And we've ramped up and grew quite a bit and are actually in the process of another large expansion. With this window wall system, We're trying to get ahead of the curve because all the high-rise buildings, we like to make sure we do everything from the inside instead of being on the outside of the building hanging off. And so that's basically why this product here is such a special product for us and for architects and for builders and everybody. It just keeps it keeps you able to be on the inside of the building during any inclement weather, anything else. It keeps everything up to pace on site, and that's basically our flagship product right now that we're going through. So not sure if I need to touch any more.
That's okay, Jay. I can take over from there. No, so that was
Yeah.
great. Jason gave us a nice introduction for MGM there. Essentially the philosophy of MGM moving forward, and the relationship between MGM and Alumicor being a one-stop shop. And Alumicor, of course, is happy to be a part of that. So I'll just give a really brief introduction about Alumicor just so you guys understand. MGM has been chosen to be our distributor in the Atlantic region, and they have been given exclusive rights on the 950 SG in Canada specifically, but also up in this region to solely manufacture this product for us. So we sell the raw aluminum extrusion, and they take it from there with all of their in-house glass manufacturing options and all of the other things. So real quickly, we're going to get into some of the more specifics about the product of the 950 SG so you guys understand what we're talking about when we're talking about how special it is. So I mean, this is just a brief glimpse at the products that Jason, I guess the combination of Jason and I do offer. Window wall being added up there in Canada just recently, but you could probably stick a lot of their glass options in there as well. A lot of this presentation was lifted from some of our Alumicor presentations. So just, you know, obviously we don't do glass, but they do. So it's important to remember that that's been a very strong selling point for the group out here out east. But let's get into it. What is window wall? That's actually a common question that we run into a lot, right, Jay? The word gets especially in Canada, the phrase gets thrown around a lot, but nobody, you know, usually the question that comes after is, what is it and why is it different from curtain wall? So I guess the most important thing to remember and the most important difference is that it's between the slabs. It's a slab to slab application and it runs from one side to the other. So it is essentially a wall of windows. But why is this important? Well, it's important for some of the issues Jason mentioned. You don't have to be outside, for example, to install it. You can install it from the inside, which as the buildings get higher, specifically in our region here, it gets a lot easier to install it. And I guess your issues that you're dealing with on site change, but you're definitely not dealing with operating large equipment outside. Also, specifically for residential applications, the sound transmission issue that curtain wall experiences with a tube going on the outside of the building is pretty much eliminated. And of course, especially at the MGM plant, and that was what was so attractive for Alumicor to select MGM for this, was their plant is really second to none in the region, and the quality control that we can put into and expect of our material inside a plant such as MGM's is really second to none. The entire system is essentially fabricated inside the plant as opposed to outside in site, right? Which is in Canada, a lot of stick systems are still being fabricated on site. So this is, we've had a lot of interest based off that, correct, Jason?
That's correct.
Yeah. So a lot of people really interested in the market shifting to this type of an application in the future. So let's get into some of the details of specifically this anchored receptor system. But first we're going to take you kind of through the lifespan of like where the material comes from out of the United States, how it's handled in Canada, how it's handled at MGM, and finally how it's applied to the building, and maybe some of the more specific details as to how that happens as well. So we'll start here. Alumicor is owned by Tube Light, actually in the United States still. So all of our extruding is done in the United States as it stands, and anodizing. So here it begins as just a regular aluminum log, and it's heated up, pushed through a die, as you see there. And just like any other extrusion brought through, it goes to our facility in Wisconsin, world-class anodizing facility. Obviously, just a quick education on anodizing. It's a electrochemical process that essentially is much more durable than almost anything you can apply color to. Obviously, it has a limit in the range of colors. And also at Line Tech, we have a world-class painting facility as well. So all of that can be applied to the 950 SG just as easily as anything else. From there, it's got to be handled. It heads up to Toronto. packaged in the types of bundles you see here. And whether at Linetech or Toronto, it will be rolled accordingly with the thermal brakes. So away it goes. And finally, we see it land in our plants here in MGM out in Nova Scotia, where the entire units, start to finish, are fabricated, as you can see here on the benches. Glass is glazed, units are prefabricated into large. Obviously, this creates other issues. You're not carrying stick to site anymore, but what you are bringing is a fully glazed, glass sealed aluminum component that's probably going to weigh, I would say, Jay, anywhere from 200 to 800 pounds. So again, new issues created, but issues that are far more under our control, and issues that MGM has dedicated a lot of time to try and dealing with. So again, really one of the big issues that you're creating is the need for space. Everything needs to be cured in-house, so as you produce, you're going to need space to store it. It needs to be stored properly. Again, with the right SSG product, things can be cured a little bit quicker than that if you want to save time, if you're in a bit of a bind. And that is another part of the beauty of this product, is once you have it in-house, you really can go as fast as the job dictates, because as we'll discuss later, once you get to site, things go very quickly, which is a huge selling point of the product. And especially in climates such as the Canadian climate or the Northern American climate, where time on site is a little bit spotty. Sometimes you're dealing with weather. For at least up here, for at least 5-6 months, we're dealing with weather related issues. So being able to get to site and get things done is very, very important, specifically in the winter months. So yeah, if you choose the right product, with Jason and I can help you with, you can, these things can be changed a little bit differently, and time to site can be manipulated very carefully that way. We have noticed, Jason, in our first few projects with this product, that I think that the time, the ability to adjust the time to site and before site, we gain a lot of control over that. I think you'd agree with me over that. Yeah. So
for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me as the supplier, to get my material to site, or sorry, to Jason's site, I think that's always a big important thing. But more specifically for MGM, that is a huge difference for us. And also being very far away from our supply lines in Toronto and in the Midwest of the United States. So always looking for ways to save time, and always looking for ways to gain an advantage in that area. So this is another way that does that. And once it's cured up, it's going to have to be carefully transported. Again, this is where MGM has been building up their ability to do this. Just again, it kind of sounds simple, you know, like lift it off the trailer, move it to site, have it. But these things do require a lot of planning. It is a different timeline on site. It's a faster timeline, I would say, right, Jason? But just
it is,
yeah. But when we get into the receptor anchoring and everything like that, you'll understand why. These things will need to be discussed in the project, in the planning stage for sure, with the contractor or with your fabricator, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page as to when you should be there and how it should be handled. I mean, these pallets that you see coming to job site, they got to be lifted into 5, 6, 7 stories or higher, right? Or higher for higher applications. And you don't want to be renting equipment for just 1 or 2 things. Everything should be lined up and scheduled out properly with the other trades. So, and again here, just as you see the different conditions you're going to run into and the weights that we're talking about. This pallet probably weighs 900 pounds. And once you get it to site, as long as it's dealt with and everybody's waiting and you can expect it, everything should be fine. But yeah, really, as we'll see, this timing does speed up. You're not sitting down and trying to fabricate in the rain or in the snow or in the wind as we have in Halifax here. Everything does get much easier. Anything to add to that, Jay?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're 100% right. Just being out of the weather is a massive advantage for this type of product. Everything comes from the factory. It's all fully sealed, ready to go. It's just click and play.
Click and play. Excellent. Yeah. So yeah, now we'll get into a little bit more of the details here, and I will be kind of reaching back to Jason. He's really taken the lead on the project specific details here. But as you can see, I mean, the first thing that gets to site is the only, I would say, unfabricated or fastened system is the receptor system. And as you can see here, this is the base receptor system. You know what, Jay, I think you should explain the process.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So essentially, before we go into the building with our receptor systems, we have to prep all the concrete curbs and all the edges of the slabs. We'll have two different applications where sometimes receptors will slit right on the edge of the slab, and sometimes they'll sit on a curb. In this particular picture, you notice a curb because there's going to be a balcony on there, and they have to do the epoxy sealing on the outside. So instead of going from a slab to a curb, we just ran a curb all the way across the whole thing. So we sit on top of that. And so we take a AVB peel and stick membrane. We wrap the curb, we wrap the face of the slab, and then once that's all done, then we can go in and lay receptors. With a laser level, we have to level everything off and shim accordingly. We caulk 3 big rows of polyurethane caulking underneath of the receptor system, so that provides 3 lines of defense. And then inside the receptor system, once it's laid down, all the penetrating holes for the screws and stuff, they're all caulked over. All the joints there, as you can see on the bottom right there, there's a 45-degree angle cut. There's also like a silicone tape that gets put over top of that and gets caulked over. So that whole sill receptor tray would be fully sealed off. So any water that gets inside of the system goes down into that receptor and weeps out the front.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, and as you'll see, this receptor system, not only is it an integral part of the rain screen system and the water weepage system, it's also very important in managing the deflection of the building. So we'll get into this. But as you can see, it starts out with the receptors being laid. That can be done well before the modules are fabricated inside the plant. The receptors should be laid because once you get those pallets to site and you have those ready modules, those modules are straight into this receptor. So let's have a look at that. So I wanted to show the detail on the technical, I guess, aspects of how this is anchored. So you essentially, to get started, you have 3 ways to anchor the receptors. So we'll just look really quick at how the receptors are laid in, because that is important as well. I believe, Jay, at Pleasant Street in the pictures, you guys just opted for the bolt through anchor, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, but on a larger system, and I think that was just because your modules, excuse me there. It was because your modules didn't have a larger span. But on a larger span, and I think you guys would probably have opted for one of the more flexible anchors. So specifically the strap anchor and or the channel anchor. So yeah, as you can see here, it's hard to show, but if you can see here, I tried to outline the top of the system. And in there is a channel. And that's just your typical strap anchor that bolts in. But that strap anchor is going to allow a little bit of side-to-side movement. It's going to allow a little bit of building deflection. Most of the deflection is actually handled inside where the module meets the receptor. That is where most of the deflection, and it will be handled in the head receptor, obviously, because on the sill, it's sitting nice and flat on the sill. But as you can see here, the same anchoring system's on the bottom. You're not going to get a lot of up and down deflection just in that specific cavity, but you will get side to side. And as we all know, especially in harsher climates, I feel the side to side, all manners of deflection being able to be handled are very important. So we'll have a look. That's just the strap anchor. Let's have a look at the channel anchor. As you see, essentially you just have a U channel, and it would actually just sit. It would just sit in that anchor like that. And then you could have the side-to-side deflection as well. Again, that isn't where we've planned on handling the deflection, but is another part of the deflection ability of this system. And of course, the final option is just to bolt right through the receptor itself. I think in a smaller run of window wall, or a smaller where you don't have to worry about 100 feet rather than maybe 20 feet, you'd probably I think a smaller setting is appropriate for the bolt anchor.
Yeah, and there's also the location of the receptor that'll come into determining the fastening methods. You can't drill a concrete hole less than 2 inches away from the edge of any concrete slab. So depending on how far out the system it has to sit, your strap anchor might be your better option, where you can actually drill and install that further back.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So, and for the application that we did on Pleasant Street, we're sitting up on top of a curb, so we weren't able to use a strap anchor for the sill for.
But it's a great
So
point.
with all the
Sometimes
different anchoring methods, yeah, it's just great to have some flexibility and to be able to handle any application really.
exactly, and depending on where that vapor barrier is going to be located, it does give you a little bit of flexibility on where you want to sit that. Correct, Jay? I know you guys did have that conversation with us before that project started, so we were able to use those anchoring systems and kind of at least play with them a little bit and have a few options on where we wanted to sit relative to the outside of the building. So yeah, but that's the channel system there. I think in this type of system, this receptor really is, it is the advantage. It is similar to a punched window system, but it is the advantage, especially when you get into the time factors that we were discussing earlier. So again, as you see, we'll get into how they're kind of laid in here, but I really blew this picture up. I thought this illustrated it well. As you see, the head receptor at the top and the interior, or sorry, the exterior rubber there. The window wall module is just you're gonna drop it right into the channel and then lean it up in. It is quite a simple installation. Once you're on site, you can go as fast as the crew can lift it, really, or as fast as the crew can and pick it up and install it. So, and then as you see at the butt end of that, as the module comes up, you have a drive-on receptor, and that fastens everything in. Give it a little tap, and the whole system's fastened in. Anything you need to add there, Jay, or is that good for you?
Yeah, so there's also wind load anchors there that you can also see inside of that slide. So all your sections are modular sections, so they're male and female split mullions. And so when you put your first system in, then there's wind load clips like you see there. They're already inside the track when they're installed. So you just slide it over, screw it in place, and that also gives you extra in case that drive-on piece wants to loosen up so that your window system's not wiggling around at all. Those are cut specifically to fit inside of the mullion, so there should be no movement within the system.
Yeah, excellent. And also, I mean, in a region like Nova Scotia or Atlantic Canada, or I mean, Atlantic United States, where the wind might be higher, of course, anything you can get to increase that wind load rating sometimes is excellent and very helpful. So here we're going to look a little bit more about what I meant when we're talking about how we handle the deflection. So here you have the slab. The deflection isn't handled in the bottom of in the sill receptor, but rather at the head receptor. As you can see, there is room for movement inside that cavity quite a bit. I mean, you're looking at, I think, what, 3/4 of an inch there, Jason? An inch?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, so that's usually enough in this market for the tolerance that we need. Obviously, if you needed a bit more, you could probably design your system to allow a little bit more. But I mean, just to show where the deflection in the system's coming from. And again, as we get into the older systems, and this is an important point for window wall, used a prime seal to deflect the water, which caused, I would say, at least in Canada, most of the issues that we've heard about with window wall. Deflection occurs, prime seals are broken, and thus water penetration occurs. So we took a little bit more of a much newer approach, as more similar to the curtain wall systems that we've developed. And we can get into that, but at least with the rain screen philosophy, we've managed to implement that into this heavier window wall system. So yeah, and again, the gaskets, we say in the presentation that they help reduce this. I would say they have eliminated it. They have eliminated this issue, which is fantastic. And just continuing on here, we also handle deflection horizontally as well. And that's with I think Jason alluded to it earlier, the vertical gasket, vertical silicone weather seal. and instead of an SSG product, it is just a very proprietary shaped gasket. As you can see here, it is one big piece. And if you'd like, Jay, you can jump into how that works a little bit better. But as you can see, oops, I want to go back there. There we go. The gasket, it is a large rubber channel, for lack of a better word, and it will handle horizontal. But Jay, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it just won't break down over time with all the movement. If there's a expansion and contraction within the system, it'll keep tight against those two pieces of glass for the whole time, and that all gets installed here in the shop. So when it goes to site, it's already installed, and they don't have to think about it. Just put your modules in and slide them into each other.
Yeah, and I mean, and of course, because I mean, this is all coming from Alumicor and Tube. This is high quality gasket. I mean, these are proprietary parts. This is stuff that's been specifically designed for our systems. And this specifically, this vertical seal is I think it's a, I don't believe the system really operates the way it would without this vertical seal. So this is a really exciting, I guess, feature of the system that fixes a lot of issues as well. Issues that have kind of plagued window wall in this market for a very long time.
Well,
We are finding solutions to.
Yeah, it gives you a good uniform seal, and
it looks great.
Cosmetically, aesthetically, it looks a lot better than somebody tooling caulking in there. And then there's also the optional cap covers, which is in the center part of that as well.
I mean, I do have, I hate, it's hard to show these often the thing, but as you can see, the vertical seal just on the sample itself, it's hard to show, but it does give a much more uniform look than maybe, like Jason said, a tooled silicone line is going to be a lot harder to make it look perfect as always. When you're using a nice vertical gasket, everything's a lot more firmed up and it looks better, right? Aesthetic is also very important, I think. And because the system this is really what it was developed for, was to be thermally compliant in Canada and to allow the deflection that we've never really been able to, at least in this market. So again, and I just really wanted to touch on this as well, but a lot of that, or some of the deflection, is also handled in the channel anchors. And this slide just shows that. It shows there's a little bit of space. You might get a little vertical, you might get a little side to side, you might get a little back and forth, but as that building moves around, there's so many joints and cavities and areas sealed in this system that are going to allow for that little bit of movement, that it is an award-winning system in the United States. And these are the reasons for it, really. I don't believe Alumicor has another Canadian tested window wall system or tube light. So it's always tricky to get the movement you want while still keeping the performance integrity intact. So we'll get into that. And again, just to show the main advantages, I like this slide. I like this picture. It really shows the advantage of window wall, specifically in a region like Atlantic Canada that's growing right now. You're starting to see more buildings that look like this. You're starting to see more 30-plus story buildings, right, Shay? And as we see more of that in this market and in other markets, you see the advantage of the window wall. It's able to, as the construction moves vertically, really the exterior envelope can follow on the way up, as you're able to install from inside, install between the slabs. If it's high volume and repetition, even better. That's a perfect candidate for a project like this. So I love this picture and other pictures like it, just to show it's very much of a unitized pace to the project, and it brings the same advantages as unitized curtain wall brings, but with maybe minus some of the headaches on site. As you can see, again, if you're going from the inside, it's a total game changer. Anything you wanted to add to that, Jay?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so we're going to get into the performance side of the system here, and we're just going to really look at, I guess, what allows our system to perform better than some of the other window wall systems, how it performs more similar to a traditional curtain wall system, which does, especially in Alumicor, have a high performance and in this market. I mean, right off the bat, and I will refer back to the sample again, but just most window walls that show up in our market are much thinner than this. This is a heavy gauge aluminum. This is a little bit different than some of the window wall that we've seen, or most of the window wall we've seen in this market. It's a bigger, it's a beefier, bustier system, and I think when you deal with some of the issues that we deal with in this climate and in this market, I think that's a huge selling point. And we love to bring this sample with us. We love to show it off. We love to show the projects off for this reason. I think people typically see window wall and it looks so much like what would you say, Jason, like a punched window system, like a very thin punched window system.
It's just very thin. And I haven't seen a window system, whether it's curtain wall or punch window or anything, as thick and meaty as this. And you're right, every time we bring this out to clients and builders and general contractors, they always comment on how thick the sidewalls are on everything.
And they pull it apart and
spacing too, right?
Right.
for your
Yeah. They
wind
like to
loads.
pull it apart. They like to put their hands on it. They like to yeah, and they're always very impressed. And so was I, to be honest. So it's just a good way to start that off. It's just right off the bat. The system itself is not flimsy. It's not overly flexible. This is built for the long haul here. So it was specifically developed for our climate. Most of the projects in the United States have been in Detroit, Chicago, and now obviously in Nova Scotia. We are the first to use it in Canada, but it was specifically designed and developed for use in our region. So interesting to know. But I mean, just like curtain walls, these are some of the factors that are going to affect the thermal performance. Just things to consider when designing with it, or when trying to understand like where we're going to use it, what's going on in the building, right? Frame style, fabrication design, just anything going in front of it. Always important to ask yourself these questions, as with any project, not just with a window wall project, but important to wonder or ask these things before we get into thermal performance. But here's how we do it. A dual strutted thermal break. It's not pour into bridge like some of our other systems. A lot of people still prefer the double strutted thermal break, polyamide, almost like a plasticky thermal break, just standard for any other curtain wall system, but double strutted, and it does achieve a very, I would say, aggressive U value with the right glass. I think it's 0.33 if I'm not mistaken, and potentially even lower it with the right infill. Correct, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into this as well, but as you can see, the outside of the slab edge cover as well. I mean, obviously insulation being built up in there, and you can kind of keep your vapor barrier and your thermal barrier all lined up nicely. But as Jason was alluding to with the anchoring systems, you're able to move that system potentially where it where it looks on your project and where it would work for you. And yeah, so just another kind of application and how this can be used to achieve higher performance, higher thermal performance. And I think at least in Canada, this is becoming far more important. So and just some of the systems that this goes, and it's been 950 SG has been designed to work with our higher end systems. So I think it's important to remember or to note these systems. I know these specific products are used in the United States a lot. The Terrastor is popular. The 1375 series is architecturally rated vent, a much higher performance than the 1350, but both obviously available south of the border as well, and through MGM, and as well the 5000 series. These are all high performance products, and the 950 SG was designed specifically to interface with these systems and hold those performance values that we've tried to achieve with them. So, and now let's look at how it keeps the water out, because this is an important piece, and it's specifically when it comes to window walls. So traditionally, prime seals were used, and traditionally that caused, again, at least specifically on the West Coast in Canada, but also in Toronto, it caused huge issues over the decades. So Two-Blade and Alumicor have, using all the things that we've discussed, plus a very curtain wally rain screen system that we'll get into, have managed to, I would say, eliminate the issue. We'll go over the principle of the rain screen first. So, I mean, this applies to every rain screen product, but essentially it's just a pressure differential. You have your pressure on the outside, your pressure on the inside, and a pressure controlled cavity that should match the outside. As long as it matches the outside, it can take water, just not past the internal barrier. And we have a weeping system, which we'll get into, and it should just, in theory and in practice, weep the water through the system, just not into the system. So we'll look at what that looks like. Jason, I think you explained this slide so much better than me. I'm going to let you explain this slide, because you just know these systems well, and I can jump in, but yeah.
Yeah. So the top right of that illustration there. So that's the framing system, the glazed framing system sitting in the receptor. So any water that would get in between that rubber gasket on the outside, or between the gaps, or any driven rain, would come down and land in that sill tray. That would then weep out and come over top of the slab. So that, I think that arrow is a little bit low. It comes over top of the slab edge
Correct.
cover.
Yeah, it should have been
and
here.
it runs down the front face. Yep. right? And that's how that one handles that. So if any water does get in between that slab edge cover and gets down inside there, there's also a drainage and a weep hole and another line of defense with the caulking and backer rod there. That would also drain itself out.
Yeah, and the beauty is that it, as Jason alluded to earlier, it hangs over the slab edge, and we just divert the water off the slab edge. And there's multiple ways for it to get out. You have a weeping baffle there, so it doesn't get clogged up. But essentially,
Yes.
your pressure cavities are in here. Your interior seal is over here. Yeah, as long as the pressure is differentiated from the inside to the outside, you are fine. And just like our curtain wall systems, I have never yet responded to a leakage issue that wasn't caused by that inside seal. So and I mean 98% of the time that seal is intact. And these systems, this is just really not the headaches that I get from any of our systems. So these rain screen systems implemented in Alumicor and utilized by MGM are fantastic. And they really are the top end of the market. So as you see here, it is a similar design to curtain wall. You do have maybe a bit bigger cavity, but all the philosophy is there. All the same aspects of the design are there, and it does just weep it right off the slab edge there. So, and yeah, I mean, if you would like, you can reach out to Jason and I, and we'll, or even just log on to the TubeLight website. All this information is there. But I mean, if you'd like a little bit more of an intimate experience, just reach out to one of us. Let us know what you're looking for, what performance you need. Typically, we'll ask you the infills and we'll ask you all the other design metrics, and we'll work with you on this. And we can figure out exactly what your performance metrics are there. As you can see, like I alluded to, this system can go as low as a 0.33 U value. That's a Canadian 0.33 U value. I have to see how that translates to the American side. I think the two systems are slightly different, but that is a very aggressive performance value for our thermal side up here. So again, of course, depends on the infills and the construction itself, but that is definitely something Jason and I would encourage you to reach out to us for, and we would be happy to help and work with you on how this works. Just going to get into it here. I'm going to show you guys a few kind of hand selected pictures that we really liked, and we really thought showed off the aesthetic appeal of the system itself. And I mean, at the end of the day, aesthetic appeal, it's aesthetic, but it's extremely important, especially in the design community. And we recognize this. People don't just want something to perform well. They want it to look great, and they want their building to make a statement. They want their design to make a statement. And I mean, you can make those statements with curtain wall, and if that's the statement you're looking for, but this is a different look, and it's a different aesthetic. And as you can see here, with those slab edge covers there, that Jason, maybe I just might bounce back in the presentation before we go further, and we'll look at those slab edge covers. I thought I had a slide in here on them, but I'm going to bounce back just real quick. And Jason and I are going to discuss the slab edge covers really quick here. Where are they? I could have sworn we had one in here, but this will probably be the best picture to explain it. We're going to show it right here, Jason. So essentially, just before we move on to the question side, I just want to discuss this really quickly. So TubeLight offers slab edge covers here. As you can see, they sit outside of the slab. You can insulate underneath, and those slab edge covers will they're designed to receive. We have specially built aluminum slab edge covers at different heights for however big your slab is, but also they can receive paneling. They can receive spandrel units. Really anything. I shouldn't say anything, but within the realm of reasonability, those slab edge covers can create that look that you saw at the very end here that we'll bounce back to. Jason, I know this is kind of your specialty. If you'd like to jump in on the slab edge covers, I know you like to talk about that stuff.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple different slab cover options. So there's also a wider throat one that Cass said you can put a sealed unit spandrel area on there. You can put a 6 millimeter thick spandrel glass in there, which is what we have done on our Pleasant Street project. You can also put panels in there. Basically, it's wide open for whatever you want to put in there. And the front of the curb, we insulate that with a 1-inch thick rigid insulation, and that's adhered to the front of the curb. So when that 6 millimeter piece of glass spandrel glass gets put in there, it's still insulated and behind it.
Yeah, correct. And obviously the options gives you the range of aesthetic look. If you want to put a slab edge cover in there and give the and show the separation, or and this, I mean, this is my preference, the spandrel clean look right through. It is a different look, and it is a unique look, and I do find that the more people I talk with in the design community, they're always looking for something unique, and they're always looking for something a bit different and something that nobody else has. And this is a fantastic way to achieve that look. And we're not talking about special parts or anything like that we'd have to develop. These are all tested parts, tested ideas, and really, I believe, and at least in this region, the look is quite unique, and we're very proud of it. So this is on just finishing up. I believe MGM's just finishing up this project here locally, as you can see here, and then just some of the bigger projects that we have, Tube Light and Alumicor have worked on separately in the United States market. So that is the end of our portion. I think we timed it out relatively well. We're happy to take questions, Jay, on behalf of Alumicor and Tube Light, or on behalf of MGM. Yeah, I hope that was beneficial for everyone. And like I said, we're available to reach out and answer anything you guys need here on the presentation or afterwards, if that's fine.
Yeah, we have quite a few questions that came in, so we'll go through as many as we have time for, but I'll go ahead and get us started. First, we have you done any design and installations in Florida meeting wind load requirements for hurricanes?
Well, that's a great question. I can absolutely look into that. I am a CDM in Canada. I do have many connections in the United States, and I'm just going to write that one down because that would be one I'd have to look into. But if you'd like to reach out and give me your contact information, I would absolutely be happy to answer that question.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll share a list of these questions and the people who asked them with their emails. So
absolutely. Yeah, no problem. That'd be an easy question to figure out. Sweat.
Right. All right. And what is the anticipated impact on pricing due to the US-Canada trade tariffs?
I figured that question would come up, yeah. So Jay and I were discussing, obviously everybody's affected by this, and it's an ongoing situation. It's changing by the week. However, MGM and Alumicor have strategized together, and I mean, I live in 30 minutes down the road from Jason and the owner of MGM, so we're constantly sitting together. And we did look through this question, and the honest and upfront answer is we're very, very confident that just between the relationship between MGM and Alumicor, I would say the value of the Canadian dollar relative to the value of the American dollar, which is quite a difference right now, that we are very, and again, getting back to Jason's introduction with MGM, the control of the supply chain items, specifically the glass, Jason, and some other items that MGM does have under their belt. These factors will allow us to remain extremely competitive despite the challenges the industry is facing right now. So we're dealing with them as well, just like anybody else. But I remain confident, as does MGM, that it's not going to, I would say, pose any major threat to our ability to remain competitive. Jason, is there anything you'd like to add to that? That's the way I.
No, you're right on the money there.
Yeah. Good question, though.
Yeah, no, thank you for addressing that. All right, well, moving on then. Next we have, are units designed and engineered by professional structural engineers licensed in the United States and Canada?
Well, what I will say to that is Tube Light and Alumicor in the structure that we exist in, we have access to all of that as tested in the United States. This product has been primarily tested and used in the United States and then introduced to Canada. But I have access, I have American engineers in my phone working for Tube Light that are happy and have flown to MGM to help them design this system, correct? On Pleasant Street specifically, Jason, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Tube Light engineers have visited MGM's site. They have approved and passed their fabrication of the product, and they are on standby at all times, including Alumicor engineers, to help with these structural issues. And these questions come up constantly. These are the bulk of the issues we deal with, correct, Jason?
That's correct.
Yeah. So yes.
And
Short
before we
answer,
get into
yes.
any project, we do a lot of pre-engineering as well, just to understand the design loads of the area, the terrain, the building code, what type of building it is. We take that
So
into consideration
essentially,
during the pricing of the projects. But as something that becomes awarded, we have to do shop drawings. We'll submit those into a structural engineer for calculations on the anchoring, the loading, the wind loads, dead loads, live loads. But yeah, that's all taken into consideration.
and again, with the ability to bounce it off American engineers within the tube light structure, which also gives us that side of the expertise as well. So
yes.
Thank you. Next we have, how is thermal bridging addressed at the slab edge?
I believe
So
Jason
the
touched
thermal
on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically the thermal break on that is right to the front edge of the slab. And in front of the slab, we do a 1 inch rigid insulation on the front of that, so that keeps all the warm and cold from getting past that thermal break.
And the slab edge cover is attached. I believe it's a part of that receptor, and the receptor itself
It's a
is
part of it's
threaded as
all
well.
extruded together, yes.
Yeah. So the slab edge cover itself is actually a part of the sill receptor, and the sill receptor has the dual strutted thermal bridge. So even if you track that back up into the system itself, it is also separated thermally.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have, do you do curtain walls, specifically not ones sitting on slabs, but hanging from the edge of a structure? And how high have you gone? Or how many stories tall have you gone?
So
Uh,
we do it for sure. Jason, I'm going to let you field this because this is MGM.
yeah, for sure. I mean, we do probably a few of them so far. That's been 6 or 7 stories. Obviously taking into consideration the expansion joints at every floor. So you'd have like a rigid anchor at some points, and you'd have a flexible anchor at the other slabs. You would leave a space between your mullions to allow for thermal expansion on that. But you can essentially go. I don't think there's really too much of a limit to it as long as
There's no limit.
you have all your allowances tolerated for your expansion and all your anchoring.
Alumicor systems are designed to go as high as we need to go. They are designed for that type of construction. MGM is full of people that have been. Jason and the other design specialists at MGM actually came from Alumicor once upon a time. They know a lot about the design of this product, and they have all been involved in as many projects as Halifax has. So yeah, it's definitely we are designed to do that, and MGM specifically has, I would say, most of the capacity in the region to do it.
Perfect. All right. Next we have, what is the strap angle material, spacing or continuous?
Strap angle material.
The strap anchor is made out of an aluminum, and I believe it's about 5/16 to 3/8 thick.
Yeah, that would
They
sound right.
come to us. They come to us pre-cut in about 4 inch sections, and so you would preload all your receptors with these. You'd probably put them every mullion, every 16 inches. Depends on what the structural engineer wants you to do for the loading on it. But yeah, they come in 4 inch pieces. They're made out of aluminum. They're preloaded right into the sill or the head receptor or even the jam receptors. And you would have a clearance hole on the backside for anchoring your bolt down.
And proprietary through Alumicor and tube light, so everything is fabricated beforehand.
Sure.
Nice. All right, and next we have, do the head and sill receptors extend the full width of the opening? And how do you anchor the jams?
Okay.
Yeah, so the receptors, depending on the size of the opening, they get spliced together. There's a translucent silicone pad or roll that you get, and that's about 4 inches wide, and you lay that over your expansions, and you seal that all in with your polyurethane caulking or your silicone caulking, sorry, and that's how you splice them together. And then there's end dams also as well that we buy straight from Tube Light, Alumicor, and they're they're cut and they got the clearance holes and everything for them. So when you go to put that end cap on, you caulk the end of your sill receptor, screw your end dam on, and then you back caulk and seal all the inside of that.
Okay, amazing.
Nice.
All right, and now we have you installed your window wall system on post-tension slabs?
I would have to look into that. Not in Halifax, I don't think, Jason.
Post tension slabs, yeah, I'm not quite 100% sure what the.
But I'm happy to look into that. When a 950 SG, that would
Sure.
probably be a question more for some of the experts in the United States into post tension slabs, and I'd be happy to ask that question. No problem.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next we have, what is the life expectancy of the gaskets and can they be replaced?
So the life expectancy is just like, I believe, any other gasket. I don't expect, just like curtain wall, these gaskets to deteriorate faster than the product itself, I would say. So it's never really brought up in any of our in any of our literature. I probably could look into that life expectancy. Life expectancy. It's a good question on the gaskets. I better not pretend like I know the exact answer to that. But I would be happy to look into that. Jason, do you have anything on removing them post installation? I think everything's kind of maneuverable if you put it together. But
Yeah, it definitely can be. So at the end of our sections of window wall, we leave a 3/4 inch space. So that means your glazed sections are going to be 3/4 of an inch shorter than your receptor. That allows you to get that final last section put in and clicked over into place. And then you fill that boy with backer rod and caulking, the 3/4 inch space. So if you ever had to, you could probably back those off and move that out of the way and replace the gasket that way. And in your
yeah,
receptor, there's a wedge rubber in your sill receptor that you could pull that up, and it would allow you to move that system back a little bit, and you could replace the exterior gasket that way.
yeah, just like anything, once you start getting into replacements and stuff, there's going to be a bit different of a standard process. But we have, I mean, these are things that Jason and I, before we launched into our first project here, we looked at these I guess, potential hurdles, and we did kind of, I would say, what would you say, Jason, strategize for as many potentials as we could think of. So I know that you guys were cutting into that mock-up piece as many times as you could to try and figure out what you could pull out and everything. So we do have contingency plans for everything that we can think of right now. So
Perfect. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. All right. Next we have, do you have air and water infiltration test results for your systems meeting the ASTM recommendations? And do you recommend such testing to be performed on every installation? Some jurisdictions in the US now require it.
okay. Well, I mean, so it's hard for me to speak to the jurisdictions in the United States. We do have testing data. I'd be happy to pull that testing data for air and water. Not a problem at all. It might even be available online. But that being said, I would happily pull that information for the person.
It does have lab testing done.
It does, yeah. It does have lab testing done. I just, whether with regards to whether we suggest you test it in the United States, I think Alumicor and Tube Light are always going to suggest to test on each project. That's usually the safe thing to do. I don't believe it's a requirement, but as you get into the different jurisdictions, it's very difficult for me to say yes or no. I don't think that's required in this jurisdiction, right, Jason? It's more up to the owner of the building, I would say. But in the United States, again, with the different rules, hard for me to speak to, but all that information's available. Again, very readily available. A completely tested product in both Canada and the United States. So yeah, whoever asked that question, I'd be happy to deliver that information. No problem.
Awesome. All right. And I have somebody asking if you could please, again, clarify the difference between Alumicor and MGM or the relationship there.
Sure, yeah. I'll just clarify. Alumicor, we used to have a manufacturing plant in Halifax. About 4 years ago, they decided to close that plant, pull operations as far back as Toronto. So after the dust settled on that, Alumicor then decided that they needed a representative in the region. So I am that representative that works for Alumicor. However, we also needed a distributor to do the fabrication. Our region specifically is very, the region hasn't moved over to the contractors doing all their fabrication yet. So for Alumicor to be a viable supplier in this region, we needed a partner like MGM to work with. So all of this product is coming from Alumicor, but once it hits MGM's hands, we considered MGM product at that point. We work extremely closely with MGM to, I guess, support them and make sure that they have everything that they need to be successful with our product. But once it makes it to MGM, I am a support figure. I am here to help Jason. Our engineers are here to help Jason, but Jason and his team largely take the lead from there. The relationship is that they are a distributor in this region.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Awesome. All right. Next we have, where are the silicone and rubber products made?
Oh, where are they coming out of right now? I just reached out to them about a month ago or 2 months ago there, Jay. Do you remember the name of the company? They are American right now, I believe.
I can't remember the name of that one.
I know I'll check my email real quick. I know I sent that information, but I'll just add it to that. Life expectancy of gaskets. I'll also add origin, and I can answer that question all in the same shot. It is American. I can't remember the exact name of the company. I did contact them. They're extremely easy to work with, but I just don't have it right off the tip of my tongue here. See if I can find it in the meantime. But go ahead. You can move on with the next question. If I can find it, I'll let you know.
Sure. All right. So next we have, I'm actually just going to do one more because I know we're running out of time here. Have any of your installations been used on LEED Platinum certified products? Products.
LEED certified. We are LEED certified, yes. Whether they've been used, I can look into that to see if they've been actually, if that has been part of the project. But all Alumicor, I believe, and Tubelight are LEED certified, and our products are LEED certified. And I think that comes down to amount of recycled content, if I'm not mistaken. And that is all that information you can get through Jason or through myself, and we can break the full details down of that, because it comes down to what your requirements are. All I can say is that to become LEED certified, I don't believe it costs any extra within the company. You just have to request the right amounts of recycled content, and then we go from there and do that and send you a little write-up. Our engineering department will put together a little write-up on how the content was made and what percentage of it is recycled content and how that breaks down for your own LEED program.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, very easy to get that information as well. Yeah,
that's great. Awesome. Well, we do still have a few more questions, but for the sake of time, I'll let you guys converse on those over email afterwards. So is there any final points, final comments before we wrap things up today?
I would just thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention and your questions. Yeah, it's excellent.
Yeah.
And encourage you to reach out to either of us if you have any questions, and we'd be happy to answer or clarify or get into a conversation. We both love to chat, so you can get a hold of us and we'll talk your ear off.
Amazing. Yes, well, we thank you both for the very thorough presentation. I think everybody really enjoyed it. So
excellent.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. And thank you, Jason and Cass, and thank you everyone for joining. I hope you all have a great day.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Bye.